Today I've been checking out Kvark, which is out now on Steam for £16.75. It's just dropped its 1.0 release, so I thought it was time to check it out. So Kvark is an FPS set in a fictional 80s Czech Republic. For all intents and purposes, it's a Half-Life 1-like, which if you remember had a little bit more of a boomer shooter feel to it, and it certainly took direct inspiration, with some of the levels being very similar. The gameplay loop is simple. You need to get to the exit of the level, which involves you walking down many corridors, usually to an open section, killing lots of enemies, walking down more corridors, collecting health, armor, ammo, new guns, and weird glowy stuff to level up your character. And then off you go to the next level and do it all again. Outside of the action, there will also be some sort of puzzle to solve, which are generally pretty straightforward and involve some sort of switch or lever to find. You'll also find some secret areas as well. I found the pacing of this game to be really good, and it never felt like any of the levels outstayed their welcome too much. There is kind of a story running through this with lore to be found, but I found it a little bit forgettable and it didn't really capture me. Kvark also takes the save approach of only being able to save at certain points dotted along your path, so yep, no save spamming here. I'm not a massive fan of this sort of system in games, especially when some sections can be quite frustrating to repeat. Moving on to combat, which is a big part of this game, you'll mostly be fighting the same enemies, but there are quite a few variations, and each pose like a different threat, and you might need a different approach or weapon to pick them off. There are also a few bosses thrown in, but I must say I found them a little bit annoying. I think they could have been a bit better designed, and I didn't really enjoy the boss fights, but the general enemies are quite fun to fight, they are challenging, and you can die pretty quick to them if you're not careful, as the game is a bit stingy with ammo and health. I suppose one of the biggest issues with the combat is the AI. I will say the developer realised this after Act 1, as he did make some changes. However, generally it's programmed to just run straight at you. There's no tactics, they won't hide, they won't dodge, they won't do anything, they come straight towards you. So the tactic to beat them every time is you walk into a room, get their attention, then back off down the corridor where you've just come from and funnel them down towards you and take them out one by one. But I will say in Act 2, the developer did notice this and tried to change it up a little bit to keep you in them open areas. So you might have made it like throw a couple of switches or something like that while enemies come towards you and you have to defend. Also, I found it slightly annoying when the enemies die. They enter into this really annoying animation where they stand up and there's gore going everywhere, the head falls off or whatever, but they stand there for ages and it can be quite hard to tell which ones are dead or alive, and it's just a bit of an animation I don't think we need. It could be shortened quite a lot. Weapon wise, you get the usual assortment of pistols, shotguns, rifles, long range and melee. I wouldn't say any stood out as such, but on the whole, they were fun to use. But I did feel they lacked a certain punch, a certain impact, and felt a bit weak at times. Also, ADS was quite annoying. There's a bit too much kickback, and the weapon takes up too much screen real estate. So generally, I was just using hipfire. Graphics wise, believe it or not, this game is on Unreal 5, but it has the retro feel to do it, and I think it's done pretty well. Some retro games put just an annoying filter to hide bad graphics, but this one looks decent. It has some nice effects and lighting going on, and I feel it does hit the mark generally. I did have one hard crash, but that's the only bug I found. Sound wise, it's pretty good too. Guns echo if you go into a corridor, and if you go into an open space, you'll notice the sound difference, which is pretty nice. So the sound is well done and there's no issues here. So in conclusion, I think this title doesn't do a lot wrong in what it's aiming for. The environments, combat, pacing and progression all fit together nicely. There's not a lot wrong with it, but it also didn't quite give me that wow feeling. It didn't make me wanting more, if you know what I mean. There was nothing new here. It plays it safe and it wears its inspiration on its sleeve, but it just left me wanting some more. I can't say it's a must buy for me personally, but I think it does deserve a place on your wish list, and you'll know from the gameplay if this is your thing. Anyway guys, that's all I've got to say on this one. Catch us all later. Goodbye.